Hello. I'll give everyone a minute here. I'm still getting set up myself. My computer is, for some reason, taking an eternity to power up. But I do have the camera. So I'll just give everyone, including myself, a moment. You can look at my table. Make sure my setup looks pretty good here. Sorry for that. Alright, my computer now, something's finally happening, so that's good. There's probably some update. I think when I turned it off last time, it asked me about an update. Whenever that happens, it seems like it takes forever for the power to come back on. Put a little more light down on the table too. Sorry, hold on. I'll try not to move too fast and jarring, because that is usually the worst. Maybe change the angle here a little bit. Sorry. Sorry. You're all going for a ride with me now. I apologize. There we go. I want to make sure you could see a little bit more of my table. I think it's helpful to know what I'm actually doing. Hi, Mom. Thank you for saying hello. Okay, so that is a better setup, I think. Okay, and then let me get over to my Facebook page so that I can answer comments. Well, see the comments and answer them, because I can't see them when they're on my phone. It'll take me a second. So today we're going to do Gelli Plate stuff. Gelli plates are fun. I love Gelli Plate. Now when I do Gelli Plate, I usually I can spend hours. Hello, Gina! I can spend a whole afternoon just playing with Gelli Plate stuff. There's so many things you can do with a Gelli Plate. It's pretty crazy. So today we're going to do just a couple things, but there's lots and lots of things you can do. I'm going to show you some examples of things I've done before. Again, while I try to multitask here and get into my Facebook page. So, this was a yellow cardstock, and I did this on the Gelli Plate with stencils, and just kind of layering stencils and acrylic paint. Then this this is just regular copy paper, and this was a positive and negative I did with leaves. If you can look, I'll zoom in kind of closer, you can see the veins in the leaves. Right? Really cool. And this is real leaves that I picked up off the ground. I put a coat of this red paint down, and then the leaves on top, and then pulled then put the green paint down, or put the leaves down, then put the green paint on. And was able to do, I think, a couple prints. This was probably maybe a second print, because you can see the veins in it. So it's just these cool things you can do with Gelli Plate. So that was one. I like that one. I did a number of different colors with that. This was just, I think, a pull off. This is tissue paper. So this one isn't all that exciting, but I've done other cooler ones with the tissue paper. But this was just I'd put some pattern on, did a pull, and then wanted to do a second pull and use just tissue paper. So you can make really nice gift paper or whatever with that. This one I really like. So this was ink. So stamping ink, rubber stamp ink. This is just a dye-based ink. If you remember, we talked about different inks last Tuesday. So this is a dye-based ink. The dye-based ink on paper dries really fast, but it works really nice on Gelli Plate, because one of the things that Gelli Plate does is keep things kind of workable for a longer period of time. And this was several layers. So this was a stencil and ink. Then I have a circle Gelli Plate that I'll actually show you here, because we're going to use that in a bit. So this little circle Gelli Plate, and then I did that with a different ink color to kind of do some layering and blending. So if you see that, that's really cool. And then there was also, this was I think a second pull. This was again a stencil with dye-based ink. So lots of things you can do with a Gelli Plate. Now, one thing I've been seeing people do, and I don't necessarily know what the purpose of it is. I feel like you could take a magazine and just use the magazine, but maybe not. But I've seen these ink kind of images off of magazines and wanted to try it. I did watch a couple of YouTube videos from Gelli Plate to see how to do it. There were a couple of different ways that people had gone about it. So we can try both and just see what happens. Before we get into that, though, I do want to, there's my live video. Okay. I do want to, one second while I expand this. Okay. I do want to, what happens? Oh, no, I have to mute it. Before we get into that, on live video, okay. There we go. Okay. Before we get into that, for all of you who've been following along, you know, tomorrow is Win It Wednesday. Now, I have Gina who's made a couple comments. My mom has made a couple comments. Good job. So you're both entered to win for Win It Wednesday. Win It Wednesday is going to be super cool. So Win It Wednesday, this is the cover. I haven't gotten all the inside done yet, but I'm going to make a little mini junk journal. So there's some cool fabric on there. I'm going to be sewing around it. So this is just a little sneak peek. Fastens with a button. Right, and the journal will be inside of there. Here's some things I'm already planning on using on the inside. And also on it, which I'll do after I get done sewing it, will be some of these paper flowers. You might remember we did paper flowers. And here's some that I made. It's a little orange here. So here's some tiny, tiny ones. This is the larger one. I put a little leaf with that. And I actually used the same dye, the flower dye, to make the leaves too. And this was a patterned green paper, and I didn't stamp on it. I just cut it out. And not every flower has leaves, but some of them do. And then I'll just kind of arrange them on there. So I thought these went well. These colors went well with that. So cool. Okay. Chance to win. All right. Now I've got Aya Nicole. All right. Hello. You get a chance to win for Win It Wednesday too. Yay. I'm so happy. Okay. Now let's talk about this Gelli Plate. When I do Gelli Plate with acrylic paint, I usually put it in this cookie sheet. This is just a dollar store cookie sheet. Fits my particular size Gelli Plate. Just because acrylic paint, I feel like it's messy. I also have my apron on today because, again, acrylic paint is messy. When I do dye ink on here, I don't usually put it in the tray. But when I use acrylic paint, I feel like it gets messier. Let me open this. It's going to be loud for a second. Okay. So again, for those of you who don't know much about Gelli Plate, it is literally like a wobbly, jello-y kind of plate. When you get it, see, it's really, really jelly-ish. See that? Wobble, wobble, wobble. Like those Jello squares they make you eat in elementary school that I always hated because I don't like Jello. I could take both of these pieces off, which is probably what I'll do, and just stick this down. This is a little bit sticky, so it works really good. When I do the dye ink, I just keep this bottom plastic on here and just set it on my desk. But when I do the cookie sheet, it's a little bit easier. And this is, I think, an 8.5 by 11 Gelli Plate. And it just fits inside this little cookie sheet. And then when you store it, you always put these back on. I think it helps keep it from drying out. The Gelli Plate's a little dyed from ink and stuff. Doesn't matter. Has no impact on anything that I'm going to do. Right, and I have this little one, same thing. Comes in this little thing with the two pieces of plastic on it. We're going to use that later if we get to it. As for things you could Gelli Plate onto, really anything. I showed you tissue paper. I showed you regular copy paper. I've used book pages, old and new, music paper. This is paper from sewing. This I found is a really good substitute for the tissue paper. And this works really cool. So this is, I bought a few patterns to make a sewing book. I just liked the little books that the patterns came in. But then it has all this great paper in it, and you don't want to waste that. This works really, really good, again, for Gelli Plate, especially if you're doing a second pull. You can do cards with it. I'm going to try and do a whole deck of altered playing cards this year. I haven't started yet, unfortunately, but when I do them, I usually do a batch at a time anyway, so that's all right. So you can really Gelli Plate anything. I've Gelli Plated on bags, on envelopes. This is actually, you know, when you get your packages in the mail, this is that. Just like sections of it off. It, you know, comes all rolled up or whatever. That's why it's a little bit crumply. So really, you can Gelli Plate on anything. So there's that. So cute. What material are they made from? Which things are you talking about? My flowers? If you're talking about my flowers, that's just cardstock and dyes and inks. Yep, I inked them with a stamp set that I have from Heartfelt Creations and die cut them, if that's what you're talking about. If not, you can let me know what it is that you're asking about. Okay, so let's do some of these magazine pulls. So what this does is, like, you put the magazine down and you pull it. Now I'm also going to try this book page. It's probably not going to work, but we're going to try it because it's Try It Tuesday. Really, it's supposed to be glossy. So I have different magazines, and each magazine has kind of different paper. This was actually a photography book that I pulled that page out of. So we'll just try this and see which of these works and how it goes and try some different things. And then when I do the pulls, I actually just use, again, plain old white copy paper. Nothing fancy. And I'm going to try it with some different types of paint. So when you think about acrylic paint, and there's probably more to it, like I'm not a paint scientist or anything, but there's what I call the thin paint, which comes in these little containers, really cheap. I like to get them when they're on sale or even clearance for, like, 50 cents, 75 cents, whatever. And then there's this, they call it heavy body or the thick paint. This, again, I get usually when they're on sale, anywhere between, I don't know, $3 and $5 is usually what I pay, depending on how high the quality. This, I think, is just maybe Hobby Lobby brand. And then I have Artist Loft. Maybe this is Hobby Lobby brand and this is Michael's brand. I don't know. Anyway, the first step of this is with a dark colored paint. So I thought we'd start with blacks first, but then I have blues and browns, and we can just kind of see where things go. But I want to try one of each. I had seen videos that said the thin paint works better, but then I saw somebody else use a heavy body, so I don't know. We'll try both. Maybe we'll use this magazine last. So you can see these really stick on here. Okay. Put that back there. All right. One of the keys, they said, to doing this is a thin coat of paint. So I'm going to do thin coat of paint. Also, if you're looking for a Gelli Plate, I think there's a variety of shapes and sizes at Michael's. I think Michael's is a Gelli brand company. Also, Gelli itself sells on their website. And if you sign up for their email, I think like that circle Gelli Plate, I got a really good deal on. And then I also got a couple of these impressables from Gelli. They're, again, a Gelli Plate. See, Gelli. But they have like this pattern in them. I don't know if you can see that online. I think you can. So I could actually, then it becomes two really cool things. So I can have paint on here and then take this and pick up the paint. So that would make this really cool, like a positive and a negative. I could put paint right on here and then put it on, or I can just use this alone and stamp with it, Gelli with it. So these were super cheap. sometimes jelly just has some deals. So it's not terrible to go right to the jelly company either. But what we do is a really thin layer of black paint, or whatever your dark color is going to be. Let's start with a little. It's always better, I guess, to have less and add if you need to. And then we just roll it, spread it on here. Right, give it a whole good coat until the plate is nice and coated with this paint. Yeah, this paint is definitely a wet paint. Maybe I needed to shake it up better too. It's not laying down as nice as I would like, which I usually don't see in this kind of paint. So I must need to shake it up a little more. That's okay. Now I'll put too much more, just a little bit more, because that didn't seem to be. There we go. That's going on a little bit better. Yeah, a lot better. So we want a good coating, but thin. So hopefully now that I had that weird kind of wet layer on there, I can get this on all right. And it does also, like, now I'm almost going over it too much. The brayer will also kind of pick it up a little bit, which is, I think, what's happening here. Now the brayer is kind of starting to pick up some of it. And that happens, I think, more easily with the thin paint. Okay, so anyway, we'll just try it. I'm going to take this picture of these children, set it down on here, and then you just rub it in really good. Some people like to use rubber gloves on a jelly plate. I do have rubber gloves in my little bin, so if I wanted to be careful and not wreck my nails or get paint on myself, that would be the way to do it. So give that a second to kind of absorb in. And then they say just pull it up a little bit, and you should be able to kind of see. Yeah, a little bit. I think the paint probably wasn't thick enough. Let's see if it's working. And black and white, I guess, is better than color. Again, we're just trying stuff here. I can see it a little. You probably can't see it at all. I'm not sure that this one is going to be very successful, but we'll give it a try. And so one video YouTuber I watched said you could actually just pick it right up and you didn't have to put any other paint down. The other YouTuber I watched said you should put another coat of paint on it first. And since this one was already going in a bad direction, we'll just see what happens. Okay, see, I didn't get anything off of there. So we can reuse that piece of paper on the other side. Let's try a new one. And let's actually try with this thicker paint. See if that goes a little bit better. Okay. Oh, that's probably too much paint now. So I'll probably end up taking some of this off. Yeah, that's a lot of paint. A lot. So I can just spread it on. And I'm going to actually use the other side of this to put some of this black paint down. And this is another thing you can do with the brayer. I've seen people actually use their jelly plate just to kind of mix colors of paint and then brayer it onto things. So you can make like a solid sheet, like what I'm doing here. And I have seen people just do that. Right, and then I could, like this one doesn't have to go to waste. I can very easily stencil over this later. Which again is the beauty of the jelly plate. There we go. This is looking better now. You just don't want it to be too so let's try this one. This one's bold. It's got some black and white. Again, we'll see if I have too much paint now. It's all the beauty of trying it on Try It Tuesday. You experiment, and there's no doing wrong. It's just learning. I think that's the best thing sometimes. Before you jump into a whole project and start something out, I think it's good to just say, hey, I saw this cool idea, and I'm just going to try it out and see kind of what I can spoof off of it, riff off of it, right? And not worry if I don't get it totally right, because it's all part of learning and experimenting. Ooh, yes, this one was much better. Much better. Just going to rub it down a little bit more, but you'll see this one for sure. Look at that. Look at that. This one was way better. And then, see, I'm getting paint all over my hands already. See? Should have used the gloves, I suppose. Now I'm going to go in and pick this up. All right, so again, this is actually a thicker copy paper. I have some thinner paper in here too. Just ends up being whatever white paper I end up have lying around. I put in this little folder and see what happens. And I like to even use my other brayer to make sure I've got a really good pickup with this, because I didn't put an extra layer of paint down like the other person I saw. I just feel like maybe this will help me make sure we get a good lift. Woo! Look at this! Oh my gosh, you guys, how cool! Look at this. Right, so it has a really kind of newsprinty look. Again, I'm not sure what this necessarily would be used for, but it's a really, I think, cool and funky. Don't you think so? What do you think? What would you use this for if you did something like this? Just to kind of it's almost like you're giving yourself some abstract art. Like, what was the name of the artist who did some of that abstract art? I can't think of his name now, but where you could take, you know, similar things and do like a different colored backgrounds or different colored paper. But that one turned out really cool. And then there's still a little bit on here. So I could even take my piece of sewing paper, and let's just see what happens when we lift off. Again, this just helps it clean up. And the Gelli plate, you don't even really have to clean it. Like, I won't clean mine until I'm usually done with the whole project. And to clean it, that didn't get much off. To clean it, I just wipe it off with a baby wipe. But some people put it away just dirty and they don't even care. Okay, so I think that turned out super cool. Let's try another one then with, so I'm going to stick with this darker or thicker paint. Let's do maybe a brown. And there'll be a little bit of black in there too, because I still have black paint on my brayer. And then we're going to do a light background. Maybe I'll do that with a thin paint as I play dominoes with all the paint on my table here. Yeah, maybe the thinner light paint in the brown. So we've got that. Okay, let's give it a shot. Got some little bit of goo on here. Okay. All right, between the black paint I already had on there and this brown paint, this will be a dark color, obviously. Okay. See, and that was just the right amount. This is thin, but good coverage. So I like that. And then where's my... kind of roll off paper over here. Put some brown on there too. And when I clean off the brayer at the end, it's just usually soap and water in the sink. Okay. Let's see how this Got Milk one goes. And the person who I saw who did this without the extra layer, or without the extra paint, she actually did, She took another piece of paper and used it to pick up the edges, which I could do. I'm not going to, but I could. Then I wouldn't have that paint frame, but I don't really mind it. Because these are magazine ads anyway, so I probably wouldn't use the whole thing. Marley said it's amazing. Yes, I've been thinking about if Marley would like to try a gel plate sometime. Gina, because I got her some stencils and stuff I love. If you heard me in like my very first Try It Tuesday, I love, yeah, that's turning out really good. I love stenciling with the Gelli plate. I think it makes stenciling so much easier. When I don't use the Gelli plate and stencil, I just find it tends to get messier. Like no matter what I do, even if I put like that removable glue adhesive on it and stick it down, it's still when I still find that I get paint that leaks underneath. But when I use the Gelli plate, I can put the stencil down. I can do a positive or negative with the stencil with only having one stencil and not having to buy both the stencil and the mask, which is kind of the inside of the stencil. So I love the Gelli plate for that. Okay, that looks really good too. I can see her, I can see her guitar. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'm excited about that one. Now for this method, you're supposed to give it just like a moment to dry a little bit before you put this other paint color down. So I'm just going to give it a second here. Wipe off my hands. Yeah, so you can see that really well. Let's give it another second here to dry. I'm actually going to use this. Let me clean this off a second. This is a newer brayer, and I decided I should try to have a brayer that I do with dark paint and a brayer that I do with light paint, although I don't think it really matters. Let's wipe that off a little bit. This brayer is pretty new. I got this, I think, with the circle, and I bought it from Gelli. It was like a little kit that had the little mini brayer, the little mini Gelli plate, and then this. This is actually the waste from when sequins get punched out. So this is like that sequin waste. That's really fun to use, again, for both positive and negative with the Gelli plate. Bubble wrap is fun. Anything with texture. I have a bunch of things stuck in my basket over here. This is like something produce came in. It's this webbing. This is super cool to lay down and give like a, you know, grid pattern. I've also used this, which is again from produce. And this is fun because then it's even like more able to be kind of abstracted and manipulated. So fun stuff. Okay, so now we're going to try just this light off-white paint that's had a minute or two to dry. And put a little bit of that on here. Again, less is better, they say. And I'll just put that down. And this is light enough that all the dark should show through. That's one of the things they say if you're going to do multiple colors, make sure they're not so close together that you're not going to be able to see them through it. Okay. That's good enough, I think. Put that off on there. Okay. Set this down. Fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. So fun. I love Try It Tuesday because it's just my opportunity to try stuff and let everybody else see. So you're already going in. If you try any of this, you're already going in with some ideas because you've seen somebody else do it. Right? Can't go wrong with that. Let somebody else make some of the mistakes, right? Or they're not mistakes. Somebody else do things and you learn from it. Aha. Ooh, cool. There you go. So that's pretty good. It's a little bit faded, but fun. And if I used like a hot pink or some really funky color, like a black or a gray, I could see where that would be kind of really cool play on like a advertising thing. So I think that's really fun. I like that. And I'm not sure what I'll do with them, but, well, I'll put some because, you know, we have Try It Tuesday. Again, I'm going to make a little mini journal for Try It Tuesday. And one of my points with Try It Tuesday is to put some of the things that I've made into it. So there'll be some of these in there, some of my magazine, other things in there, right? And it's funny how it all came back to magazines, right? Day one, we did stuff with magazines, and here I am back at magazines. See? You never throw away old magazines because you just never know what you might use them for. You just never know. Now, because when these baby wipes are not very wet, let me just say that. I'm just gonna wipe this off a little bit. Just because if I put another dark coat of paint, I feel like it's going to be too white underneath there. There we go, right? It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's the beauty of the Gelli Plate. Okay. Put that in my little trash area. And let's try, I wanted to try words and see how words went. So let's do the words again in black, I guess. There we go. And it was really interesting with this thin paint because when I watched the tutorial, one of them said like the cheap thin paint is absolutely the best, but as you saw, I didn't really have any luck with my thin, cheap paint. I'm having much better luck with this thicker bodied paint. So who knows? So all kinds of paints are all a little bit different. There we go. That looks like a good coating. I keep getting rid of this. I should keep it over here. Am I rubbing off of my excess? Okay. And then words. There we go. And actually what I'll do, I do have a hot pink paint. So we can try it. Neon pink this is. So that I think will be fun. Make sure I get a good image off of here. There we go. Let's see. Yes, I see the words. The middle isn't super good. Let me make sure I get the middle a little bit better. Oh, that actually seems worse. Like it was better before. Oh well. You learn, right? I see it. Give that a second to dry. Wipe all the paint off my hands. And make sure this pink paint is shook up really well. Okay. Mom, I have lots more magazines. So I'm gonna have to get you a Gelli Plate, Mom. You can have hours of fun just sitting and playing with the Gelli Plate. Making prints, you can make beads. You've learned how to do that now. See, all the things you can do. You can have Marley over. She can get a Gelli Plate, and then you can both do Try It Tuesdays together. That would be fun. Okay. So, you can't feel this, but it's so interesting how these different paints just feel different when I run brayers on them. I don't know why it is, but it's interesting how that works. Let's take off here. Okay. You probably can't see this, but my Gelli Plate's old ashtray. Ashtrays work really good for holding brayers and for holding paintbrushes and for nothing else because you should not be smoking. But if you have one lying around, I think I got mine for like 50 cents at some kind of garage sale. There are some things that they work really good for. Brayers and paintbrushes. There might be some cooking things too, but I'm not so much of a chef. Okay. Let's see how this turns out. Ooh, I think it's cool. See how much fun this is? If you could see my face, I just have the biggest smile. Look at that! So, modern manners in hot pink. I think that's pretty fun. Let me hold it closer so you can see it a little bit better here. Right? Just funky and cool. Don't you think so? I do. Again, just a fun way to kind of do abstract things. Now, I wanted to go really wild. So, I had thought about what else might work in addition to just plain old paint. And I thought, I'm going to use black paint because I know the black paint works. I have this glaze. It's an acrylic glaze. It's called Dragonfly, and that's based on kind of the sparkle that's in it. So it's kind of a clear with the sparkle. And I was just curious how that would work as a background. And since it is Try It Tuesday, what are we going to do? We're going to try it. Let's see what happens. Gobs of, I don't know, dry paint or something from, I don't even know where. Maybe my little box over here. Oh, I didn't quite put enough paint on here this time, apparently. This one's kind of a smoky black because the brown was on there too. And it doesn't hurt anything. You just have to be okay with that color, which I am. That's just fine. Does not bother me at all. Go. Okay. A little bit thick. Where's my paper again? I keep tossing my piece of paper off here. And I've even done, so I'm not doing that now, but I've even done like notebooks or art journals and put a stencil down, and then when I do my wipe, I do it right over the stencil, or right, and then I already have kind of a base for something. This is kind of pretty black for an art journal, but it doesn't matter. Okay, let's try this lovely lady here. Again, this was similar to one of the magazines I just used in terms of era. And then I have some more vintage things we'll get to in a second. But I wanted to kind of say, I know things that are working or not working. And let's just see where we go. Because we want to be done before 8 so that I'm not keeping everyone forever. But I definitely want us to have fun. Ambidextrous, yes. I know I have to, because the way I'm standing, I have to be ambidextrous. Okay. Let's take a look. Oh, yes. That came through lovely. You're going to love this one. Okay. And then again, we're going to give that a second, well, more than a second, to dry. And then we're going to put this, you can see it's like a milky white. I think it dries clear. And it has this sparkle in it. So maybe I know I've used this before. Yeah, it's like a clear, glittery kind of thing. I'm just going to give that another moment here. I know. Ooh, right? This one's going to work awesome. I'm so excited. Okay. All right, now, Mom, this one's for you, right? This is like a glitter paint. It's literally an acrylic medium with glitter in it, sparkle in it. So we'll see how this goes. Hopefully that's dry enough. Well, that's still a little bit wet. Let me give it one additional moment, because I don't want to put it all on and smudge it all up. That would be sad. So I'll give it one more second. I hope everyone had a good day today. It was snowing in Wisconsin and kind of gloomy. Hopefully tomorrow we have some sun. But for January, it's been pretty warm. Today was chilly though, but warmer than normal for this time of year. I need like a Jeopardy music. Doo-doo. Actually, while that's drying, because I want to make sure I give it long enough time. One of the other things I wanted to try, that I can try really quick now, while we're waiting, was making a negative, or an opposite stamp. So let's try that quick. On my circle jelly plate, I'm going to take one of these bird stamps. Doesn't really matter which one, but I'll use this bolder one just because I feel like it's going to be easier. I just wanted to see if this would work. Put this on this stamping block. Ink it. All right, make sure it's really nice and inky. Inky, inky, inky. And like this stamp set has a couple sets of birds that are literally together, so they're opposite each other. Now, if I wanted to replicate that with the ones that aren't, this was my thing. Like, would I be able to make a negative image with this? See, that doesn't look like it goes on the plate very well. I don't know. Let's see how it looks on the paper. Looks like it beaded up a lot. So there's probably something you have to do before. A step I'm missing here. That's not terrible, but I've seen better quality. Let's try it again. Yeah, same thing. It's really beaded up. But it does make an opposite image. So if I stamp then the other way. So I'll have to do some research as to where I'm going wrong. But I'll show you because you probably can't see it. Right, so there's my positive and negative. This is with the stamp itself, and this is the jelly plate one. So as you can see, it's beading up a little bit. So there must be something I'm supposed to do that I am not aware of that would keep that beading up from happening. But that's good to know that I'm missing a step, right? Again, part of Try It Tuesday. Try something, see what happens. You know, this should be, I think, dry enough for me to put this glitter on. So let's see if this works. Get all that out of the way. Okay. Shake, shake, shake. Glitter paint. Let's give it a try. Ooh, it's very pretty and very sparkly. Actually, I'm going to put just a little bit more. Oh, that's probably too much, but that's okay. Let's see how this goes. I hope you're excited, Mom. I'm excited. And this probably, I could even, if I really wanted to, I could even let this glitter dry and then put another layer of colored paint underneath there if I really wanted to. I think that would be totally doable and probably something fun to experiment with also. Get that off my brayer here. Okay. Fingers crossed. Let's see how this goes. Sparkly lady turns out. See, you can see why this is so fun. Like, you can get really cheap copy paper. Like I said, this is a little bit better quality. I just happen to have it upstairs. But I've used the really low quality, cheap copy paper too. It works fine. Oh, yeah. So, that turned out amazing. I don't know if you can see. I can see the shine. Can you see it? Yeah, there you're seeing it. So she's got this like mermaidy kind of glitter thing going on. So that is pretty darn fun. All right, and there's still a little bit of one here. Let's see if I can pick that up with something. Yep. Okay. This is an old magazine. I just want to try this real quick and then we can be probably wrapping up and done. But I really wanted to try this old magazine and just see, because I have some vintage magazines. I'm just curious if they work as well as modern magazines, or if over time they lose whatever this inkiness is. I'm using the wrong brayer. Whatever this inkiness is that makes this work. Like I said, it has to be smooth, or that's what they say, like the shiny kind of paper, or you're not going to get the ink off. And this is shiny, but it's an old magazine. So, I know one thing they said about older magazines, like don't let it sit on too long. So that's a good tip to know, I think. Okay. So let's try this older magazine. Put it down. Do a quick roll here. And lift. Yeah, I'm not seeing it in there. I do see I'm getting actual paper off. So, older magazines, probably not as well. I do see some of it here, but not a lot of it. Right, and then I'll have to wipe that off. So, I would say that's a fail. Other than a little bit, like this magazine is just too old and doesn't have the same level of, like, greasiness. Although I can keep this. This is still fun to use for a journal. I could cut stuff out of there. Don't let anything go to waste, right? So that would still be usable. Okay, so it's a good lesson. I have a couple other sheets of paper, but I'll let everyone go for the night. Now tomorrow at 7, I think that was the time I had said, I'll do Win It Wednesday. For you wonderful people who have shown up and commented, for each Tuesday that you showed up, you get an entry into Win It Wednesday, and the winner again is going to get this, now unfinished, but it will be finished when I send it, little mini junk journal. Button closure. This is an elastic strap I'm going to sew down. Right, there's the front, there's the back. It's got this is a vintage apron, this is sari, this is vintage rickrack. This is just some regular ribbon. There's some vintage doily on here. Here's a different, this was actually like one of those table runners, vintage, hand embroidered old thing. On the inside is another piece of that same thing. Goes across, and there'll just be one signature, as they call it, which is chunk of paper inside there. And then I'm also going to put my some of these little paper flowers that I made. Kind of made them together. I did pink ones and then I redid with these orange ones. So I think that's a pretty cool thing to win. As a good thank you for all of you who joined. I know we haven't had tons of people participate, but all the better for those of you who showed up. And maybe we'll see if I switch to YouTube or if I keep doing it here or what happens. But I think it's been fun to try new things with all of you and have you all play along and ask questions. It's always good to see my mom. I probably don't talk to her enough. So, and my sister and my niece. So, yay. Good to see you ladies. And we'll talk again soon. And tomorrow is Win It Wednesday. So we'll see if you win. Good night.